for all of you. My name is Jamie, and already we're sitting with a plethora of wildlife right on our doorstep in our tiny, wonderful piece of wilderness in the Sabi Sands in the Greater Kruger area of South Africa. One of the largest wilderness areas around the world and known and famous for its big cats and Big Cat Week. We are Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Welcome to the magnificent Djuma and Arathusa game reserves here in the famous Sabi Sands. It's part of the Greater Kruger National Park in northeastern South Africa, more than twice the size of Yellowstone National Board. I've got two vehicles out. I've got a drone in the sky, trackers out, and also a bushwalk. This is going to be a fantastic show. You can interact with us, and that's one of the most important things about this. You can ask us a question, and we'll go right down the barrel there to answer your question. Twitter, #SafariLive. I'm going to cross over to Peter and see what we've got. Take it.
Well guys, welcome as always on Safari Live here in South Africa. It is a beautiful afternoon, a little bit overcast, a little bit warm as well. And you know what? I'm sure I can say 20 seconds just to say hello properly. We have been staying very, very close to Mvula from this morning. Now, for many of you, maybe this is your first time on Safari Live. We are live in the African bush. Anything can happen. We've had lion and leopard over the last 24 hours. We had a beautiful leopard this morning. Ellies, everything's happening. But this leopard Mvula is a big male. We had trackers with him. Scott was staying with him until not long ago. And then he just crossed into a very, very tricky area. Basically what we call drainage lines, or a gully, or a little ravine if you want. But it's this zigzag of little dongas, which are these dug out gullies, I think is the word that would make most sense to you. Very tricky, even on foot. We've been in there, Brent and them are also looking for the from that side. So we're doing everything we can, but leopards, as you may know, are very tricky customers when they want to be, and this guy's just gone into perfect leopard habitat. And even for perhaps the best 4x4 for the job we've got here with us, to get in there with a vehicle is very tricky. Even on foot, we've been in there now. So just a quick update for you. We are looking for this leopard. We could find him. It's very, very lush here. We're going to keep looking for it and hopefully find it. We've got vehicles out, as you know, Jamie. What a lovely time to be on safari. Welcome to Big Cat Week on Nat.Geo Wild. It's going to be fantastic, and I do hope we find this leopard. He's one of the most beautiful leopard I've ever seen. So Brent's going to give an update from that side on foot. We're not far from him. We're a couple hundred yards from him. Hopefully we'll see you back here soon with the leopard.
Welcome. We've got guinea fowl alarm calling in the drainage line. We're helping Peter follow up on this leopard. I think it's very, very close. So welcome. My name's Brent Leo Smith, and Chandre's on camera. He's stuck in a bush, but we're tracking big cats on foot. So I'm not going to talk too much, but it's going to have to be really quiet. I think this male leopard is right here. It's a steep drainage line. I don't know if you guys can hear the birds going ta 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 ta. So there's a whole bunch of guinea fowl alarming. We're not sure whether the leopard is actually in the drainage line. So at the moment we're using the screen. We don't want to give him a fright. So we're approaching from a bit further away. We're just trying to look for a nice open gap that we can see down into the drainage line in case he's moving or in case he's decided to rest. Those birds are still very distressed, so I'm really, really positive he's really close. So we've got to go through some thick bush now. So we're going to go back across the Jamie really quickly. Hopefully when we get back, we would have found this male leopard.
While the search for that big male leopard continues, we're sticking for the moment with the typical African waterhole scene, and a really, really good place to start off your safari, particularly when the sun is starting to come out. It's nice and warm, and all of the animals, I'm sure as many of you know, we are in a serious drought at the moment. And although everything's starting to look green, the water is very short, and it's the perfect place to come and watch the wildlife gather. If we look at just the scene we can see in front of us, there are Nyala off on the left. This extraordinary view that we have. You can see the buffalo in the waterhole. Here we go. As we descend, you can see that incredible aerial view, and you can see where we are watching across at you. You can see how phenomenally dry everything looks. And with a herd of about, I would say about 10 Duggar boys, that's the name that we give to these old groups of male buffalo, all spending a little bit of time wallowing in the mud, cooling down ever so slightly. Now I'm going to reposition because I want to try and get a view of those Nyala who are doing their typical display dance. So he's going to keep doing it for us. I want to get us a little bit closer because it's one of the most fascinating things to watch. The male Nyala doing their mating display dance. I know that, Donna, you were chatting a little bit about the fact that the Nyala were doing their mating display dance on the 24-hour camera that we have up at that waterhole. And thanks to that, Donna, they're incredible to see. They puff themselves up in a process known as piloerection. They puff themselves look big by puffing up. Ooh. Try to duck us forward ever so slightly. There, he's doing it perfectly for us. They're hidden away ever so slightly, but his fur puffs up like that. They do a slow motion dance, and it's their way of challenging the other male, but in a way that means that they don't have to risk physical contact. But I don't think it's too serious because he's relaxed enough to continue feeding. Just a little bit fluffed up there. And don't forget that you can send us through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. If you'd like to know anything about the wonderful creatures that we have around us. We've also got the impala rams there that you can see. And they're incredibly good fun to watch at the moment. The females are heavily pregnant, which causes a massive spike in estrogen, which confuses these rams, makes them think that they might have a mating opportunity, and they spend a lot of time fighting with each other. Spend as much time as possible out here. I've been living in this particular area for about 3.5 years. Watch these buffalo tussling away with that thick base of bone at the base of their horns. And that is formidable weaponry. And for Duggar boys like these, the favorite food of big lions, big male lions, big male lion coalitions and the larger prides, you need to be as armed as possible. And these boys are having actually a fairly playful tussle. If this was serious, we'd be seeing them take a massive run up at each other, be hearing the crunch and the clack of the horns. But that base is solid bone, as are those horns. and easily about 2 inches thick. They've spent some time rolling in the mud as well, obviously cooled down enough to enjoy a little bit of afternoon tussling here. This is epic to see. It's actually not often that we get to see buffalo bulls tussling like this. They're usually quite peaceful animals, at least with each other. That being said, you're looking at probably one of the most dangerous animals out here to walk on foot. As I said, they're older males, so you're looking at around 10 to 13. They've left the big breeding herds of 300, 500 animals, and they've come and moved off into bachelor groups. And they tend to be rather grumpy. And we can watch the audience that's observing them from the air. Now the buffalo don't seem too concerned by the characteristics of their compatriots. And you can get an idea just of the sheer scale of these animals. What you're looking down on now is 800, 900 kilograms of solid muscle. You can see the cracked and dry mud. This is a hard time for them, and buffalo are the animals that suffer the most. They're very, very water dependent. And what we've noticed a lot from all of our animals at the moment is just a slight increase in tension. Everything is extra pressure. Just that little bit more stressed out with a lack of water. Now, if we look across to the left, there's another pair tussling as well. Now, Bertus, who's watching in Chicago, you were wondering how come these animals are so unfazed by our presence in the safari vehicle. And you can see they are completely ignoring us. They are going about their daily business. And that is one of the most special things about being out here, is that we can observe animals' natural behavior, like this play fighting that they're doing at the moment. They've had years and years. This is a protected area that's being protected and viewed. Animals have been viewed here for the last 100 or so years. And in the Sabi Sands, it's at least 40, which is where we are now. So the animals, when they see us coming, are so used to the sounds of the vehicles, the sounds of the people on them, that they don't respond at all, and we get to have the most incredible sightings with them. As I said, we're in a small section of the Sabi Sands. We are on Djuma and Arathusa game reserves. Within the Sabi Sands, which is open to the greater Kruger National Park, and for those of you unfamiliar with South African geography, we're sort of on the top northeast corner, bordering along Mozambique and Zimbabwe, and an area famed for some of the most wonderful sightings over the years, and actually an area that has the highest lion density anywhere in the world. That answers Anna Marie's question. While we leave these buffaloes to fight it out and tussle it out, and having chatted a bit about big cats, let's head across to Peter and find out how his search is going.
Well, guys, welcome back. Interesting seeing those buffalo having a bit of a, let's call it a lazy afternoon wrestle. We've gone in a way not that far, but it feels very far. It's very, very tough terrain, this. We have seen Brent and John just now on foot where you were with him. So we're very close to where you guys were walking with them a few minutes ago. And the feeling is that, as you can see, thick stuff here, is that this leopard most likely will be following this drainage line, this little dry riverbed to the east. Now, luckily from the years I guided here, I remembered some of these little trails, I guess you could call it, which is not really roads, but it's just ways that we could use to get in here. Otherwise, it's impossible to get in. So this used to be a little trail like that. I just want to see if we can get through the dip here. So you must hold on a little bit. It could be slightly bumpy. But we could be within 50 yards, 80 yards. I mean, anywhere in this kind of, if you look here to the right, that kind of, you see that's where the sort of the gully runs or the drainage line runs. Anywhere in this is where it could be, or just on the banks either side. So, okay, I think we'll get through here without... Hold on a second. It's very important to realize we're moving through this. This is all acacia. If you look at this tree here, you can see those big thorns on it. Very, very tough, very hardy trees. Elephant move through all the time. In fact, one of the old tracks that we could normally use, I couldn't get through. The elephants have broken so many trees. So even though it looks quite rough as we're moving along, hello Andy, you're just asking from your daughter how big is a male leopard? Well, firstly, hello guys, and you've got a very nice mum to take on game drive like that. Little Andy's kid, wish I'd known your name. Basically, a male leopard would be, if you're 7 years old, you'd be about, what, like 1 meter 40 or so. What is that, about 5 foot. The leopard would be as long as you are tall, but only from his sort of back of his legs to his head, without his tail. That's the length of him. In weight, he would weigh a lot more than, probably more than you and your mum put together. A big male leopard weighs about, Mvula is pretty big, so he probably weighs about 75 kilograms, I would say. 80 kilograms maybe, that's about 170 pounds. He weighs pretty much the same as I do. He will take a kilogram or two. So, same size as a sort of an average size human male. And sorry that I'm not looking at you guys, but a leopard you could so easily see or spot or not see, just depending on a little bit of luck. So you have to really try very hard here. Looking for tracks as well. As I said, Scott and them are also looking around. I do really hope we can find him again. Yeah, another question. Fantastic time for questions. Well, firstly, I must say that, Diane, you're taking, I'd say, top 10 in terms of towns, coolest town names I've heard from. Sugarland. I'm not sure if that's a suburb or a town, but interesting place. I guess only in Texas you would find a place called Sugarland. But anyway, Diane, you're asking what's the most unpredictable animal towards human in terms of interaction or behavior? Sure. Have you got tracks? Okay guys, we've got VM on camera, and VM, apart from a good friend, is also very, very skilled wildlife spotter and track spotter. He loves looking around, which is why you're in such good hands with the views. Vasenjom. Just want to make sure if it's a leopard track or maybe a hyena track. Also tricky because we've had some rain recently. The sand has been wet and now it's dried out again after the rain. So the sand is really hard. I mean, the trackers, we were chatting to them today, they're saying, oh, it's tough because even the buffalo, which weigh a ton, that's 2,000 pounds, and have hard hooves like cattle, even their tracks you don't find easily. So you can imagine a leopard which weighs much less and it's got soft padded feet. He would walk across this. He's designed not to make a sound when he walks, and that means he's got these soft feet. So to track them, it really is not that easy when the sand is as hard as it is here. Coming back to your question, most unpredictable animal. Sorry guys, I'm so in the habit of speaking Afrikaans to VM. I was just asking if you've seen the track again. I did see a hyena track just back there, so it might have been a hyena. Very tricky. Let me just see here. That is... that's that lioness we were tracking. That we couldn't find. There's a lioness track going through there, not a leopard track. Yeah. Now lioness, just to put it in perspective, a lioness and a leopard, a female lion and a male leopard, their tracks could be quite similar at a quick glance. Lioness is normally a little bit bigger. Both big cats. Sorry, I'm really getting to your question, Diane. Most unpredictable short answer, hippopotamus. Just because they're just strange. You don't really understand them. They still injure. Listen, listen, listen. Listen, listen. That way, that way. Guys, you're going to go to Brent. He's also listening to the same thing. I need to cover some ground. We want to get around to Mamba Road. And listen out, look out. We're going to find this leopard, I hope, this afternoon.
So we're still on the trail of the leopard. We've heard kudu alarming. So Steph, Chandra and myself are trying to move into that area as quickly as we can. So they're one of the best indicators of predators. There we go. Still alarm calling. So we're trying our best. We've called Peter on the radio. We've told him to get there as well. Okay, the alarm calls are still there. The reason I pop my hands around my ears is so I can hear further. Okay, so Peter's gonna try to get in there. So we're gonna try and move on foot a bit quicker, and you're gonna go with Peter for a while.
You guys, much easier for me to move fast, luckily in the 4x4. I must just say that the thrill of the hunt, it really is something that I think is primarily built into us, genetically coded into us humans. And I see that every time when we're on a hunt with a predator, humans are always cheering for the hunt, and I've talked about that a few times now. But what we're doing right now, at this moment, is we are hunting a leopard, in the sense that we're using all our senses, all our skills between Brent, myself, the trackers. Okay, got you, Brent? All the combined experience we have, and we're using all that skill to hunt these leopards, meaning trying to find them. Obviously, we're not going to do something other than enjoy them when we find them. This is the vehicle from Brent and them. They're about 1 kilometer from here now, more than, well, almost a mile from here. And that is very exciting. This process that we're part of right now, as you may be sensing, is very exciting, because at any second, maybe a minute or two, 3, because we have to cover some ground, we're going to find this leopard, hopefully. And that moment of discovery, that is just super, super, super exciting. So if you can, don't go anywhere. I do really believe we're going to find this leopard, and we're going to do everything in our skill sets to do so. And that moment when we find him is just the best. It is like the hunt that is successful. You're going to go on a short break. Hopefully we don't find the leopard before you get back. Hold on a second. I just saw some tracks. It looks like a warthog ran away from something there. But basically, it looks like this leopard has done a 180 from his earlier route. He was heading south, which is close to our boundary. So luckily for us, he seems to have turned. But again, the terrain, the area he's picked is perfect leopard area, but not so perfect finding leopard area. So this is going to be a little bit challenging, but that's what we like. I mean, if this was all easy, it would be boring. It really is the thrill of the hunt and the thrill of the discovery that makes a safari so exciting. All right, so Brent and them are running. We are driving a little bit faster than we normally would. Just listening to the Game Drive channel there. Jamie's also looking for things. Basically, we just want to get to what's called Battalier Road. We'll chat to Brent again just now. Obviously we're using the quickest road possible, which is this road called Twin Dams Road, for those of you guys that come and drive very often and know this area. The Twin Dams Road runs parallel to the Mulwati riverbed, which is a little dry riverbed, so I'm just listening to the Game Drive channels as well. That's the beauty of communication. So I'm obviously listening to Brent, but also Jamie and James, all the guys out there, we're all chatting to each other just love this. What a fun thing to do. Look for one of the most beautiful, captivating, elusive, mystifying creatures in the wild in this beautiful reserve, Djuma, Arathusa on the Sabi Sands, and doing it with friends and people that are also enthusiastic. It's just, I just can't get enough of this. You know what, years ago when I started guiding, and I'm talking now almost 20 years ago, I thought I'd do it for like a year or two, you know, just for the experience, see some cool wildlife, meet some interesting people. Yeah, that was 20 years ago. You get hooked on this, you will see. Right, this is Mamba Road. That was the first coordinate Brent gave us, this junction. Then while he was running, I heard him on the radio saying, more north, Battalier. Standing by, Brent. Oh, Ephraim, yeah. We had colouring from Nongo, Battalier Junction, Spaghetti Junction. So Brent is from by Malunga there, so I'm from by the over now. Copy, I come straight Spaghetti Junction, Mamba Road area. Guys, I'm just talking to Ephraim there. Also one of the game drivers in the area. I've known Ephraim for a long time now. Very good tracker, very intuitive tracker as well. He's going to come help us as well. He's in the vehicle with guests. He's calling, I thought it was Brent at first. Brent, you copy? Let's just stop a little bit. You quickly stop. Switch off the engine, listen. This is roughly where we are now, where the kudus were calling earlier. Again, we're in a sandy riverbed. You can see the banks here, thick, lush habitat. In the mongoose. In the mongoose, where is he? Well spotted. You see what I told you about VM? We also call him wildebeest. He spotted the first wildebeest live birth last year. And that name is stuck. And VM has got eagle eyes, slender mongoose, well spotted. I heard a bird alarm calling, which might have been calling because of the mongoose. I think Brent is running so hard he can't hear the radio at the moment. Brent, you copy? Okay guys, we've got about 15 seconds or so, then everyone else is getting back on the vehicle. So we just have to tell them again what we've been doing, but we've covered a big piece of ground in it. Right, well, welcome back everyone. So we've just been covering some ground. I'm just trying to call Brent. I'll try again in a few minutes on the radio. But basically we've come all the way around. We're now further north than where we started earlier. This is where we heard the kudus alarm calling. A kudu alarm call, because I'm not sure if you could hear it. It sounds like it's actually described as a bark. That's what they sound like.
That area, and it's a strong possibility it is that same leopard who's moved through. And there also were tracks of a single lioness around here, so it could possibly be the lioness or the leopard, but both bode well for a big cat on the sunset safari. You can see they're a little bit nervous, and watch how they're moving their ears. So they're going to move off. When we arrived, they were all staring intently to the east of us. So we're going to head off to the east, look for some tracks. But while we do that, let's go see what Hayden's up to in the tent.
Wow, exciting stuff, guys. You don't know what's going to happen, and that's what Jamie said at the beginning. This is unscripted. We are working with the animals. We are just we're actually a participant in the theatre of the bush, and I think that's a fantastic thing, that you don't know what's going to be around the next corner. I just wanted to give a little update on some more information about these skulls. It's very rare that you can get up close and personal to skulls, and particularly when you've got big carnivores going on. Now, we talked before about the teeth, okay? I'm just going to quickly go through them again. These really big teeth here, these canines, these are the holding, gripping teeth. These closely set together incisors, they're the stripping or shearing teeth that are, scraping teeth that they'll scrape the meat off with. But these ones up here are the most important, these two back ones, these carnassials, upper premolar and lower molar, okay? We'll talk more about them in a second. The way this all works is that they've got a special crest along the top of their skull here. You can have a look here. See this crest here? Now this is a leopard skull, okay? And I'm going to show you the lion skull as well. I just have to manhandle this one over here. It's a bit of the heavyweight. I'll just quickly swap that around. You can see this again, this crest. Have a look here. See that crest along the back there? Okay, that's called the sagittal crest. Now the sagittal crest there is there for a very special reason. It holds on to these, or it gives anchor points for these special muscles called the temporalis muscle. Now I want you to, at home right now, just put your hands on your table or wherever you're seated, and put your hands just on the jawbone there, the only movable bone in your skull, and put it there and open your mouth like that, and you'll start to feel a muscle working. And I want you to run your hands, your fingers just up your skull as you do that. And then I want you to keep your fingers on your head where it sort of stops, about there. It's about there on humans, about halfway up the skull. And that's the reason behind that, is our temporalis muscles aren't that big. We've got a very, very mixed diet. We eat loads of different things. We don't need to have those carnassial, strong teeth for ripping and shredding. Whereas these guys have to have that very, very, very strong bite to crush through bones and be able to shear that meat off. Hence, this massive, massive crest that is developed along there for those anchor points. But let's get to the super heavyweight. Let me bring this skull in. The super heavyweight of sagittal crests is this skull right here. And look at the size of that one right there. I'll turn it around to the side for you to get a bit more of a look. That sagittal crest there has these massive muscles that come around here, these temporalis muscles, and they join on, and it allows this animal, think about it, when you've got a pair of scissors at home and you're cutting, the cutting point at the end is nowhere near as powerful as the cutting point right down in the middle, and hence that powerful muscle and these cutting or breaking teeth right at the back here. This is the scissor point here, which allows these animals to cut through those bones and that meat and swallow those pieces. It doesn't grind them up, just cuts them off, shears them, and takes them back. Guess what skull this is? Tweet in #SafariLive. First person to get it right, I'll give you a shout out. Okay, let's cross over to Jamie. Sagittal crest, temporalis muscles, incredibly powerful stuff. All the carnivores have got it. Let's cross to Jamie and see what she's up to.
And as you can see, we've got this extraordinary image coming to you from the skies of a herd of elephants in some very, very thick bush. Now we're going to try and make our way across to them, but just have a look at the size and the numbers of the herd. Looks like there's at least over 10. And sounds like there's 15 of them with babies included, and I think we should try and get across and see if we can get a little bit closer to them. We're going to do it nice and slowly and ease in very gently so that we don't scare them or startle them at all. Let's go and have a look at one of my favorite creatures in the entire world. We're making our way through some incredibly thick bush, so bear with the noise for the moment as we head in. I have to do a couple of U-turns as well. If you see us driving over any trees, never fear. We pick young ones that we know will spring back up right behind the car. Slowly, slowly try and find a nice way in. It's important to remember, of course, that this is their home and we are visitors here. So to try and make an approach and view them in a way that has the least impact on them possible is the best way to go. Luckily we have a trusty Wendy to us in there. We have some fantastic news from Lee, who is watching from Ohio. Lee's going to be going for the first ever safari experience to the western Sabi Sands and was was wondering, oh my word, hello gorgeous. We've got some incredible big male kudu. One of the most spectacular antelope out here. Try and stop so we can get a view. Oh, wow. Sorry, Lee, I will be back with your question in one moment. Just gonna find a way that we can get a nice view of them. They're perfectly relaxed. How incredible are they? One of our largest antelope species, capable of clearing easily 6 feet without even thinking about it from a standing start. Those incredible spiral horns that grow continuously throughout their lives. Hello, boys. Now, I think that this particular kudu could well be one that is known to us. His wide-spaced horns, look at that regal profile. Now, he's a mature bull, easily 6 or 7 years old. Looks to me like this might be Zeus. As I said, a kudu who is known to us here on Safari Live for having those wide-spaced horns. Let's try and get another view of them. They carry themselves with the most incredible dignity. To be extraordinary. Now, we are very, very close here to pretty much the western edge of the Sabi Sands. So what you're seeing here is a preview to what you might be seeing when you come and join us. Hello, boy. Stop here. We don't want to startle them in any way. One thing, just to finish off Lee's question before I talk about our Zeus character here, is Lee, you are coming to a place famed for some of the most incredible leopard sightings in the world. I really hope you are super excited. Isn't he stunning? Now, kudu are extraordinary creatures. This type of thick, dense bush is their favorite habitat, but they are also always at risk of attack. Now, a kudu of this size would probably only really be threatened by a lion, but you never know, some big male leopards exist out there. But Henry, you were wondering if they can ever outrun something like a leopard or a lion, any predators out here. And yes, if they can get away, if the stealth sort of attack mode hasn't worked for the big predator, the surprise element isn't there, then almost, I would say, about 60% of the time that antelope is going to escape and be able to outrun any creature chasing after it. And the reason behind that is, particularly with leopards and lions, they're big, bulky, solid animals, and they tend to overheat. So they're surprise hunters, they're ambush hunters. But of course, although the kudu loves to hide in here, so do leopards. So keep your eyes peeled, because you never know who might pop out of the bush. Hello, boy. I'm going to continue along on my search.
Out our little alarm systems around us sometimes can be a bit difficult. So one of the most important things while you're tracking is your ears. So we just stopped on a nice bit of high ground. We can see quite a long way around us. The last place we heard squirrel alarm calls was just in the drainage line here. And we're just listening very carefully and hoping that whatever it is, lion or leopard, is going to be spotted by either a bird of, a species of prey, like an impala or a kudu, or, even better, spotted by a squirrel or a monkey, and they really pinpoint. But while we're listening, I just thought we would tell you about this tree. So you can see it's really scarred here, and this wood looks quite dead, which it is. And that little piece here that Jandra is focusing on at the moment is actually just below the bark. It's called the cambium layer, and that transports the nutrients from the bottom of the tree up to the rest of it. But this is the elephant's favorite part to eat. So what's happened is, if I was an elephant, I would have come up to this marula tree and I would have got my tusk, and elephants are sometimes left tusk or right tusk, and I would have dug it in and I would have used it to stretch the bark. And once I got it nice and loose, and you can see some of the pieces here like this, so we can pretend I'm an elephant. The bark's here, and I got my tusk in and then sort of loosened it like that, and then used my trunk to wrap around and take it out. And you can see it's very fibrous on the inside. So the good tasty bits have already been removed from in here, and you can see them here. Here's a perfect example of it. So there you go, they would have ripped this up and then gone in for this really tasty bit. Now, if you're a marula tree, this is not a good thing. Marula's got very soft wood, and after an ellie does that, the wood actually starts to die. So only these parts where the cambium layer is still getting nutrients. So this piece of wood starts to die, and then a whole host of longhorn and wood borer beetles will burrow in and lay their eggs. And I mean, some of them are tiny, like that one there. Some of them can make holes the size of a human thumb. And what happens is, slowly over time, they'll eat into this wood and compromise the structure of this tree. And it could be wind or rain, and eventually this tree will keel over and die. But at the moment, it's living quite well, but it has sort of got an expiry date now that the elephants have removed more than 50% of the nutrient-giving cambium layer from it. So we haven't heard anything else yet. So we're going to carry on, and we're going to drop down into the drainage line where there's some nice sand. Hopefully we'll find some nice fresh prints. And while we do that, let's go see what HT's up to in the tent.
Wow, well, that's an interesting update from Brent. It's always fantastic with Brent in the bush, seeing all those sorts of small things that he picks up on. Just a quick one before I talk about this thing here. This one here, this skull. Mary in Missouri, you are rock and roll. You got it right, Mary. Absolutely brilliant. First person in to give us a tweet, and it is a hyena skull. Massive, massive temporalis muscles and massive sagittal crest. Mary in Missouri, top work, fantastic, and good on you. Right, does anyone know what this is? Ah, yes, you got it right, exactly. It's an elephant skull. Well, it's an elephant lower jawbone, actually. I do apologise. And I just wanted to give you a quick look at these teeth. Now, a lot of people may know this already, but it's very rare that you get to see an elephant's lower jawbone up this close and personal. These are the teeth here. These are these molars, okay? These are crushing molars that get those branches and that bark and leaves that Brent was just talking about and puts, you can imagine another set here on the upper jaw. And they would grind those around, like a little bit like our molars, what we do. So they'd have two sets on the top as well. Altogether, 24 teeth in that, 6 on each half of the jaw. They get 6 sets within their lifetime, okay? Now, I just want to read out the numbers because it's always a bit hard for an old man like me to remember numbers exactly when it happens. The first set comes through at about 2 years, the second about 6 years, then it's the next set 3, 15 years, set 4 around 28, set 5 around 43, and the next set around 65 years of age. Now, as they come through, they grow through. They grow through this way, they come up, and then there's 2 sort of growing at the same time. There'll only ever be 2 exposed on this jaw. I'm going to just tip it up for you a bit here so you can see it's actually really bulls, particularly the older bulls and the older females, they will pull out aquatic plants that have got a lot of sand on the bottom of them, and they actually wash the sand off. They wash the sand off in the water, like dipping a tea bag in the water, to wash the sand off to preserve preserve their teeth. So animals adapt themselves, they know when things are going on, and this is a fantastic little indication that, you know, we've got a creature here that lives for a very long period of time. If they were to have well-developed teeth straight away, it'd probably be a death sentence for them. So that's the reason why they get 6 sets of teeth throughout their lifetime. It's a pretty cool thing. I just thought that'd be a great thing to bring up. The skull is probably going to be about that big, so unfortunately I couldn't carry it at this time, but we'll see what we can do. No, I don't even know if I've got one. This was found on the reserve, and we do find a lot of things on the reserve, as all the skulls, and a lot of people ask those questions. So just a little bit of info about teeth, really important thing. As our own. Mary and Missouri, congratulations. Big shout out to you. Top answer. Sagittal crest on the hyena. And we are going to cross to some elephants. I'm just looking at the screen who we're going to next. I think we're going to go to Jamie with elephants. Fantastic, guys. I'll see you just now.
We're sitting with the most extraordinary giant pachyderms, the largest land mammal in the world, and beautifully peaceful, phenomenally intelligent, and definitely one of my favorite creatures out here. Such a special sighting to see. Munching away peacefully. I'm going to try and shift around ever so slightly. Let's see if we can get a better view of them. Absolutely extraordinary to see. For those of you watching us on the internet, we are going to shift around. We're going to try and find ourselves a really lovely position, and you get to spend that little bit of extra time with these elephants. Hello, guys. A little bit of behind-the-scenes interaction here. This herd is slowly moving off into very dense bush, but luckily we've still got these two here with us. We've been treated to some spectacular views, and the amazing thing that the drone brings to our whole experience is being able to watch the dynamics play out from a much larger, much higher perspective as they move around through the area. No big girl. Of the younger females hanging around at the back. Most of the young calves have moved back into a very dense area of vegetation. Now, I wonder where these eddies are off to and how they've spent their day. I think they're probably going to be heading up towards water very, very soon. I'm going to try and loop us around again. Get another view of this ellie herd. They are an incredibly dense bush. Oh, I didn't see the little one there. Hello, baby. Try not to give them any kind of a fright. Well, watch heads, everyone. I think if we sit here for just a moment, this little one might even come a little bit closer and more out into the open. Hello, little one. That's my best. It's okay. That's all right, little guy. Oh, little girl. Sorry, little girl. Interesting to see the behavior of that calf there, moving away from mom. These ellies are shifting around once again towards very, very thick bush. Try and shift around. And as we do, we'll say, wave hello to James. Who's driving the drone. I do. I know that Tony, you asked how much does an elephant weigh? Well, with herds like this, with a couple of cows, they're probably somewhere in the region of between 3 to 4 tons. So 3,000, 4,000 kilograms, which is about roughly just over 6,000 to over 8,000 pounds. The bulls, on the other hand, can be anywhere up to 2,000 pounds, 3,000 pounds heavier. Quite extraordinarily large creatures. As I said, the largest land mammal that we have out here. I know there's a lot of noise. Just bear with me one moment as we try and get around to them. I thought they were going to stop off at the mud wallow, but it's obviously not too hot. It's very typical behavior for elephants to find a nice muddy spot. They roll themselves around in it, and it acts as a perfect cooling and pest repellent medication. There we go. Can't go. There you go, you can see the elephant herd slowly making its way towards us, as well as the water that I was chatting about, that mud wallow. And we found ourselves in a perfect position where we are now. We're going to get a chance to have a look as the whole herd is moving towards us. The magical thing about this little elephant is she's probably, he's a young male. He is about maybe 5 or 6 meters away from the car, hidden behind. We've got a tree between us and him. If I were to go any closer, he would definitely be uncomfortable. The magical thing about ellies is that you give them plenty of personal space and respect. They're usually quite comfortable in coming right up to the vehicle and often with young males of this age, even coming to investigate. Now, I said he's young. He's actually right on the point where he will be kicked out of his herd soon. And it's one of those, I think, sad but natural experiences of being an elephant bull. They're cosseted away as calves in the safety of the family. They've got mothers and aunts to look after them and cousins, all of which will band around them and protect them. But as he starts to get older, he will get to the point where his parents send him away, and he will have to go off and fend for himself with other young males of the same age. All right, well, we're going to try and find another nice view for you, but let's head across to Brent and see what he's been up to in the meantime.
So, in our search for either leopard or lion on foot, we've come across one of the coolest little guys in the bush. This is a Speaks hinged tortoise, and they're really mobile at this time of the day. He's off to go graze. It's nice and cool. Lots of little pans from the little bit of rain we've had. So it looks like he's heading off to have a graze, and he's probably going to find a nice thicket like this one coming up, and that's where he's going to spend the night, nice and safe from predators. Oh, look at him. He's like he's gone into four-wheel drive as he climbs over that branch, and he's going to find a nice little patch of bush to crawl into and spend the rest of the late afternoon till tomorrow morning when he'll go out feeding again. So we're going to carry on. We've got a hunch about where those cats could be. So while we do that, let's go to Peter so he can give us an update.
Well, welcome back this side. Great activity with the elephant and things on the walk. And you might notice my energy is down a little bit. It's not in a bad way. I'm still in a very good mood. After all, we have a leopard somewhere here. But those alarm calls we had, Brent and them followed up. As I was telling you, they had a look there. And I'm wondering if it wasn't perhaps something else in terms of distance from this area. They moved there. They're looking around. They can't find specific tracks at the moment, but they're going to do or keep doing what they're doing. And between Brent and the guys, they're phenomenal trackers. They'll find if it's there. I am going to try and link up with them if we have a chance this afternoon, just to sort of say hello, sort of vice versa. But I've decided to come back to Twin Dams area, which is basically where we had last seen this on our morning drive. We did find him with hyenas around. They stolen some food from him, and when I saw him, I did actually see him this afternoon before you could join us, and he was looking quite lean. So he is hunting. But more importantly, or most importantly perhaps to consider, is it's a male leopard and it's a dominant male leopard. So they have territories, they're dominant animals, and a male like Mvulu has got quite a large area. And in that area he would have various females, and to stay a dominant male he needs to scent mark. He walks around and he leaves scent marks against tree trunks and against bushes by spraying urine and by scraping his nails. He's got these glands by the toes that leave a scent as well. And the route that he was taking, this is what I'm getting to. Sorry if it doesn't make sense yet. The route he was taking, we found him this morning at Djuma Dam. It'd actually be great if Hayden can show you this in a map in a little bit, if there's time for it. There's so many things going on. But and the way he's moving is along this riverbed. This is the drainage line of the riverbed in front of us. He was using this as his geographical landmark, if you want. And he was heading in a general south or southerly direction, and his territory ends not far from here to the south, and then he's got to go east, which is sort of this way again. So he was coming this, it's a bit strange for you to look at it this way, but he's coming from there, heading this way. Then he turned around a little bit where we lost him, he went a little bit back, and I'm hoping that he's going to keep coming the way he was, and then he would go east again. So I've decided to circle back to where we'd last seen him. I'm going to go down there now. In fact, you can drive down with us. And see if we can't maybe find a new trail of him again. Hold on a bit, a little bit steep. We're just going to cross over and just go poke our noses in. Maybe there's a new track, or maybe we hear something. And And while we do so, guys, please remember you're always welcome to ask questions on the drive that you do on a safari. You talk to each other. Hashtag Safari Live to send them in. Hello, Catherine. Oh, there's a little guinea fowl. They'd earlier given this leopard away. Sneaky bird. We'll try and see it just now. A guinea fowl. Catherine, that's one of the things leopard would eat. You're just asking, what do leopards typically eat in Southern Africa or South Africa? There's the guinea fowl again. Now, earlier when we were sitting with him, probably about 20 minutes before you could join us, just waiting and hoping that he stay there, these guinea fowl made a big noise, a big alarm call. Obviously, you can't blame them. They saw leopard eat guinea fowl, so, you announce it. And that's what made him leave the area. And he disappeared very quickly into those drainage lines. So they're still here, which in a way would say that he hasn't been back. But let's go have a look up there anyway. Catherine, they typically eat, well, in this area, a lot of impala. Impala would be a sort of a small to medium-sized deer. We can compare it to some of the deer species in Europe. White-tailed deer in America would be a very similar one. In this area, definitely impala is at the top of their menu. Warthog, monkeys, baboons, sometimes not common. Nyala, bushbuck, young kudu. Big male leopard like him could even take adult female kudu. Good question. I think we've got another one. Franklin as well. Sorry guys, birds are always tricky to show because they dart away. Susanna asking, when do leopards typically hunt? Well, firstly, I always start like this when people ask me when do animals hunt. Hunters by nature are opportunistic animals. They have to take the chance when it's there. So they'll take something any time of the day. But typically, it would be early morning, late afternoon. Sorry guys, we have to weave and wind our way through here. This is where we last saw him, just to give you an idea. Right in there. Down the bottom. Now this is about a good 10 feet drop down to that sandy area. To give you an idea, that log would be about as thick as a big football player's upper leg. So that's the leopard would have been about 3 times the height of that log. So it's a bit further down than you might realize. And he went into this little zigzag. This whole area is where he's gone into, up there. Perfect place for leopard to hide in, perfect place to hunt from. So yeah, typically leopard hunt early morning, late afternoon, going into the time that we are entering now. So we'll check up the tree as well. Sometimes I sit up in the trees. Hello Pam, out of Phoenix, Arizona. You're asking, and that ties perfectly to the previous question, when do leopards hunt typically? Lions, most predators hunt that time of the day, and it's called crepuscular time, or crepuscular hunters would describe them. And that refers to that sort of grey time, pre and post dusk and dawn. So before and after sunrise, before and after sunset. See with the leopard is just that he could be anywhere here. We really hope we can share it this afternoon. I hope you can be there when we do find him. It is the most exciting, exhilarating moment when it happens. Dominic, out of Wisconsin. Hello, how's it going? You're asking, what is the success rate of the leopards when they hunt? Well, I guess that could vary a little bit, Dominic, from leopard to leopard, habitat to habitat would play a big role as well. So I can't really tell you that for a fact, but I would just say from what I've seen and the different things I've read and so on, probably not very high. We're probably looking at about a 1 in 4 or 1 in 6, something like that. So let's say 10 to 25% success rate on actual hunts, but there's many little sort of mini hunts in between, where they just try something and then they maybe miss it, you know. Scott and them, when they were following this leopard earlier, saw him catch a monitor lizard, which is like a little, well, a big lizard. So opportunity is important. But enough about hunting. One of the most beautiful, one of the most regal antelope out here. You're going to enjoy it with Jamie, and we'll see you back here hopefully quite soon.
And not only do we have one of the most beautiful and regal antelope, but we have 4 of them. 3 of them that you can see at the moment, and then one that's just ducking off to the right there. They really are extraordinary looking creatures. Those spiral horns add something of incredible grace. It's only the males that have the horns, and if they do ever get to the point where they're fighting, possibly over a female, those horns are their primary weapons, but also they're one of their major downfalls, because it's very common for kudu to tangle together and get stuck in that way. In their thick and dense habitat, having horns like that are not an advantage, so the females don't bother. One of the other antelope that you might see out here is an Inyala, and they can be quite easily confused. But Webster, you wanted to know how you tell the difference. Well, first of all, if we have a look at these extraordinary males in front of us, they're very, very much larger than the Inyala and slightly darker in color. Now, they're probably about double the size, and not only that, when you look at the stripes on their sides, kudu only have stripes, whereas Inyala have both spots and stripes, and the females at least are slightly tan in color. With the males, their horns don't reach that incredible spiral turn. They only really twist once in Inyala, but they're all part of the same family. It's called the spiral horned antelope family, the largest member being the eland, and the smallest being the little bushbuck that we sometimes see hiding around in the thick vegetation. The Traphalagus family of antelope. You got a little bit of allo grooming happening there, some bonding in the bachelor group, keeping his friend free from ticks. Now, unlike the impala, for example, they don't have any kind of set breeding season or any kind of set herd structure, but it's very common to see them in these bachelor groups. And he's going to be combing through the fur of that one male and just dislodging any ticks or parasites that might be causing additional itchy spots. Look at that, those enormous necks. Now, those skulls can weigh easily up to 10 kilograms, which is about 24 pounds. And that means they have to have fast, thick, and muscular necks in order to carry that head of horns. Now, we've been looking at these extraordinary creatures, but I'm still on the search of my elephants, so let's head across to Hayden.
Well, very interesting stuff. Kudu, one of my favourite antelope on the planet. How beautiful and regal they are. But what that little creature, what Brent found, that hinged tortoise, I just thought it was a nice opportunity to have a talk about tortoise shell. What I've got here, it's not a hinged tortoise, it's a leopard tortoise here. Now, tortoises have been around for about 210 million years. They're the oldest recorded reptile, and this shell has been an incredible sort of component of their success. Now, it's made up of a domed top called a carapace. Okay, this dome section over here, all around here, and then if we turn it over, this bottom flat area is called the plastron. This area around here, okay, the plastron, and then there's another little section just here called the bridge, and that joins the two of them together. Now, it's a bony structure, but it's covered with these things here called scutes, made out of keratin. And if you have a close look there, I'm not sure how close you can get in, but there is little ridges along the way here. These ridges are indicative of growth, a little bit like the rings on a tree. When you see a tree cut down, you can tell those growth rings. And basically what happens is, in the growth period, there's a flat area. When the animal goes into dormancy and gets a little bit less, there's food availability slower in the colder periods of the month, etc. The ridge occurs. So you could count those up, and if I get my little trusty eyepiece out for you during the next break, I'll have a close look and see if I can tell how old this particular one is. But those little scoots give us an indicator of how old they are. Fantastic piece of structure there for the animal. It's got ribs in there, it's got a spinal column, it's got collarbones as well, and then the legs obviously come out, and the head, etc. But it all can retract in, so a fantastic thing. Now, the way to tell the difference between turtles, tortoises and terrapins: tortoises live on land, turtles in the ocean, terrapins in fresh water. And one of the reasons why we don't pick these animals up, and you may have seen Jamie and I back in last October when we did pick one up and move it across the road, that would be the only time you do it, is because when a tortoise gets stressed, it urinates and it loses a lot of water, and in the drier, colder months, or when the animal hasn't got a lot of water availability, it can be very, very dehydrating for the animal. One of the reasons why we just watch them, let them be, and carry on. Anyway, let's cross back now. I can see a beautiful Nyala female on camera. I don't know who it's with, but let's check it out.
So we've bumped into another group of Nyala, and they can see us. They're busy watching us. Now, why this is really, really good for us, this is now like our vanguard, our sort of backup defenders, because we know the leopard hasn't come this way. If they saw the leopard, they'd start barking incessantly and warning all the other animals around that he's there. So we can sneak off and know that if the leopard comes in this area, these Nyala should spot him, and we'll be able to pinpoint his direction. And Nyala enjoy slightly thicker bush than impala, and it's because they're browsers. So they're feeding on leaves and from small bushes and from trees, almost zero grass. So they do prefer slightly thicker areas than some of the other antelope. So back down to where we think that leopard might be. So we've trekked up here on the high ground, and these Nyala are here, so we know the leopard hasn't passed through here. Getting a bit cooler. It's a good time of the day for leopards to start moving. New additions to the Djuma family.
And look what we found. Aren't they just absolutely adorable? Little gangly, spindly creatures. The baby impala. This one's probably a day or two old. It's perfectly steady on its little... Making sure there's no ticks. Now the last thing a little one needs, with all the growing that it has to do, the last thing it needs is a load of parasites sapping energy. The one thing impala are very good at is keeping clean. Here you go. It's also grooming. Amazing to see those instincts acting immediately after birth. In the next few days, we're going to start seeing them form into nursery groups where they all stay together, almost safe in numbers, hopping over logs. Already negotiating the obstacles in their lives with considerable skill. Another quick grooming session. Now they're slowly disappearing into a very dense block. Can't really reposition without scaring them away. they're going to disappear in there. Alrighty, let's see what we can do. Try and make our way in. All very, very shy and very skittish. I think it's worth just giving them a moment and some space. And some still very pregnant looking females who I have so much admiration for in the way that they can dash around. Absolutely adorable. Well, we've found some incredible things to you whilst you were on your break, so welcome back. And we are sitting here right now on live television watching the newest arrivals to our game reserve. The tiny little impala lambs on their spindly legs, only a couple of days old, and spending some time tucked away in some bush with their mothers. Extraordinary to see. Now, this time of year for these tiny little creatures is such a dangerous time. They are the favorite food of leopards and wild dogs. Even hyenas will take tiny newborn lambs, so it's so vital that they are born ready and able to walk and run and keep up with their mothers, which is why they look so spindly with those long, thin legs. Now I'm going to give them plenty of space so that we don't scare them. Hello, little one. Now, I've said that the babies are very often the favorite food of many of the predators, but that goes for the pregnant females as well. They are extraordinarily large and masculine. You were wondering if the females become prey more often as well, and yes, they do. They are slowed down by those enormous stomachs. It's a very... Towards the end of their pregnancy in particular, they're big, they're heavy, they're slow. I'm always amazed at the way that they can run as it is, but they're definitely not at their peak levels, and they're struggling to get as much nutrients in them as possible, often quite distracted, not just because they're pregnant, but because the males, in response to those estrogen levels, are pursuing them and chasing them around, and that actually exhausts them to the point where they're not as alert as they should be. And luckily, they seem to be slowly relaxing and coming across to us. Now I'm going to try and get you another lovely view of these charming little creatures. And while I do, Brent has a charming flower to show you. We'll be back with you very shortly.
So we're still slowly moving our way down the drainage line, but whoops. While we've got you, it's a really beautiful little flower. There we go. Quite often its nickname is the Chinese lantern tree. As you can see, it looks very similar to a Chinese lantern, but it's actually called a sickle bush. And you can see this flower, the top half is very game drive vehicle. Dead branches of this is probably our main cause of flat tires. Very, very hard wood. Very, very sharp spines. They're not true thorns, and you can see one there. So they're not true thorns, they're modified branches and incredibly strong, and they like to give our cars flat tires. So very careful of these, and the worst thing is elephants like to drop them on the roads. So quite often it gets us using the jack. But we're going to carry on searching this drainage line, and while we do that, let's go back to Jamie and those wonderful eddies.
Here we go, we've got another view of this incredible impala herd. spindly little legs dashing off. They are just so phenomenally cute. I'm trying to keep quite a fair distance away from them. I definitely don't want to startle them or cause them to expend any extra energy. Have to reposition one more time. Now this is one of our smallest antelope species that we have here, or sort of roughly in the divide between the small and the medium-sized antelope. But Christopher, you were wondering how big can an antelope grow? Well, the largest antelope species in the world is something that does occur not so much in the Sabi Sands area, but it could potentially. Something known as an eland, and a big male eland is about the size of a buffalo. So somewhere in the region of about 900 kilograms of a solid antelope, probably close to 2 meters in height, and to convert that, that's about almost 2,000 pounds in weight. Absolutely enormous creatures. Some of the most fastidious out here, they've got loose teeth in the bottom of their lower jaw that almost form a comb, and even from birth they have those teeth. And it's a way of helping them keep parasite free and in top form, especially when there's so many things out here to catch them and chase them. He's stretching out a leg there, making sure all of the ticks are off its skin. Now these little ones have got so much growing to do that they need to make sure they're not in any way compromised by ticks and parasites. Perfectly identical little miniatures. There you go, a little bit of grooming from mom trying to suckle. Oh, there we go. Having a meal. Now that head-butting motion is something you'll see in all antelope, and it's the impala lamb's way of butting its mother's stomach. Now for those of you with domestic cats and dogs, the way that they move their paws when they're happy, when they need the skin or anything like that, that's the same instinct as these baby impala have, and it's to stimulate mom to produce milk. And that really good feed is going to be so vitally important for their growth over the next few days. That little white tail flashing and wagging. Now, these impala lambs, as I said, are so young, only about maybe 2 days old, and they're only just starting to be born. Rachel, you were wondering how long is their gestation period? So how long are they pregnant for? Well, their rutting or their mating season is around the month of May, which means that their gestation is around roughly 7 months. That being said, if some of them do not fall pregnant, some of the females might not fall pregnant with the first mating, they will then mate again in June, July. But their babies are born after a slightly shorter time period, so around December, January. And the reason for that is that they've got extra access to nutrients. So the births that have happened now have had to wait for the rainy season to sort of begin, for the grass to get green and for the leaves to start freshening up on the trees. But those that have later births, oh, all done. Wait, Mom. Absolutely adorable little creatures. I'm going to try and shift forward so we can get another view. every now and again that instinct to run kicks in, and they're very, very good examples of herd animals. Now, we spoke about the largest antelope, the eland, and we have a question about whether or not we get them in the Sabi Sands, and I'm going to reposition while I answer that. The answer is yes, we do, but very rarely. It's not the ideal type of environment for them. They tend to be more arid area antelope. You might find them more towards the sort of northern sections of